Februaries have stepped it up the last couple of years, from Hogwarts and Atomic Heart to Octopath Traveler, Horizon Forbidden West, and even the smaller plucky indie games that have surprised everyone with how well they did, like Elden Ring. Here, we roll into February 2024. Let's look at some of the games coming out. Are you getting any of these? What do you think of them? This might also be where I would say subscribe. The first up, Alros. Alros looks like every DMT story you've ever heard Joe Rogan talk about, mixed with a 2D platformer. Few games do so many things on the screen that you question which friggin' side of your brain is reacting to what you're seeing, without the game actually looking like a mess. Alros describes itself as a sole survivor of a ship crashed onto another ship called the Sarcophagus, which is a giant drifting cosmic uterus holding a demonic being known as Ultras. Honestly, the game could have been called Buy Me Now, and I still wouldn't be any more enticed than I already am. This is the kind of game that jacks into the matrix of my own excitement, the little Kingsbirds, the Oris. But if you look close, the neon fantasy and ethereal lighting that made Concrete Genie an absolute highlight of a generation for me is all here. The mixture of stained glass, organic themes, and spiritual mechanics fascinates me. A Metroidvania-style title that has you battling your way through this ancient giant reproductive ship and either helping the cycle of the universe continue or halt it in the game. And at times it looks a bit like Dark Cells and Hotline Miami. A bit Dune with flowing odd capes and breath masks glowing with their own internal lights, as well as more than a few ancient civilization styles in a celestial gear-like pattern. Combat's tight and requires specific timing and precision during hits, and the more you explore, the more you actually return weird life to the ship, which then results in caring for it and a meditative upgrade path, using an organic tool as well that can help you fly around, trim the vegetation that blocks your way, and move consistently throughout, collecting seeds and plant life. Usually there's one game a year that totally stuns me, and somehow Alros is three of them. It surprises with its worldview. It entices me with that mystery, that just one more screen kind of look to it that you can see that they're aiming for. Something so weird, alien, unique, but then also mixes in the idea of the universe machine on top of it. It sounds like something a person deep into a late-night trip would say as they stared up at the stars. And on February 12th, that's exactly what I plan to do. From something completely unexpected to something that feels like it's been headed our way for years, Suicide Squad comes out February 2nd. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League stands as a dynamic action-adventure title unfolding within the open-world setting of Metropolis. The game showcases a roster of 4 distinct characters. You got Captain Boomerang, Deadshot, Harley Quinn, and King Shark, porting both solo play and cooperative multiplayer modes for up to 4 players. In solo mode, the player has the liberty to switch between the characters at any time, while the non-selectable characters are, of course, managed by the AI. And they've already stated you will be able to go throughout the entire game by yourself if you want, without any kind of service game attachment to having other people jump in. Each character in the game is equipped with 2 classes of weapons, certain armaments being common across multiple characters. Unsurprisingly, every single character has that unique up-close combat style and a distinct method of moving around the game's environment, something that we saw with Gotham Knights not really end up nailing well. Already, just with my time in the beta, I can say one thing this game has done better than the prior title I mentioned earlier is at the very least traversal. It feels better in this title. Comes out in a little bit. It is true review codes are not going out because technically it's a service game and the servers are not coming up until day 1. I do want to also point out that regardless if I like it or not, early beta reactions have been that expected, well-oiled and manufactured back and forth on very delineated lines with this is the worst thing ever made and oh, it's pretty fun. And I'm actually interested in just seeing where it hits. To be honest, I just want to move beyond this. Now, if punching the ever-living shit out of a bunch of over-the-top criminals with the IQ of a late-night Twitter user isn't high on your list, what about a game that channels Starship Troopers so hard at times it could simply launch with the tagline, "Am I doing my part?" That's Helldivers 2 from Arrowhead, coming out on the 8th of February. Helldivers 2 looks sweet. Helldivers was originally a twin-based stick shooter, but as time has gone on, every company wants a bit of that open-world game co-op shooter market, and that's where they've headed with this. A military shooter where aliens have found your home planet, and a couple buds can leap in and defend that planet by dropping into hot zones, calling in special weaponry and all kinds of customizations that, of course, the Helldiver devs have promised will be deep enough to keep you coming back for more, and then blowing up that section bad enough that pretty much the aliens don't want to be there anymore. Helldivers looks graphically fantastic. I love that mid-futuristic modern look to it, where everything looks a bit like a kid guessed where you might be in 10 years in technology, but it's the scale that looks so well done here. Huge alien bosses, massive explosions, but better yet, to step into this a little bit more, Gone is that sort of flicky combat I expected, and that we've gotten a lot of these action hero Destiny kind of shooters, and it's gone more towards that pseudo-modern military system of weight and inertia. You also get to explore planets, fight off those invaders everywhere by just absolutely destroying everything. It sounds perfect to me. And even more added to that is friendly fire is always on, which is just going to be hell for the people I know I play with. While it's multiplayer with up to 4 players, in which you're able to explore the planets and complete objectives together and upgrade your equipment together, I don't know exactly if your combat and your story moves forward if you jump into somebody else's game, or if it's all tied into that specific person, whoever's hosting that specific game. We'll just have to see how that part goes. You like the look of Helldivers 2? Because to me, I think even though the original was a twin stick and this is a big jump to something unique, man, does it look good. Another game that's here, but I'm still surprised every time I think about it, Final Fantasy Rebirth on February 29th. It's the second part of the supposed 3-way cut through the original Final Fantasy VII game reimagined. And in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, players primarily step into the non-jumpable boots of Cloud Strife, who in the first game joined up forces with the eco-terrorist group Avalanche and decided to take down the Shinra Corporation, which is of course depleting the planet's life energy, because that's what bad guys do. Cloud finds himself entangled up in a deeper conflict in this game. I'm not going to jump too much into it if you haven't played it. But Rebirth continues the trend that was set by the predecessor, which is really re-envisioning the key elements of the original game, keeping a lot of it together, but possibly changing some story elements, including substantial enhancements to character development, overarching narrative, and gameplay systems, switching this to something that I really like. I definitely enjoyed the feeling of the first part. The gameplay in Rebirth is characterized by real-time exploration and combat, and once again, unless it's DLC, the inability to jump, because apparently Cloud weighs like 600 pounds. But where this one does change it up is it goes away from the linear progression we saw in the first part, and the overworld in Rebirth, finally we get to actually go out and explore the open-ended environment, with your expected main quests and side quests and all of the party overlapping systems and abilities that we've seen before in other games, but again, remade here. Chocobos for faster travel are in the game, and we've already seen a bunch of video of that. I was never exactly sure how the remake would land. I loved the first part. Many would argue that the remake is actually better than Final Fantasy XVI proper, and I'd probably be in that group. Rebirth looks to keep the series going by letting us take everything we've learned and opening the world finally. That's a massive shift in the way the gameplay will be, though, at least in how the story structure and quest structure is set and how you experience it within the open world. It may be a little bit more Final Fantasy 15 versus 16 in the setup. And to me, honestly, that's nothing but a positive. Everything I've seen of Rebirth looks like it'll probably end up being just as good as we had hoped. Another game I hope ends up hitting with the exact same amount of energy as Banisher's Ghosts of New Eden on February 13th. This is an immersive third-person action role-playing game. There's a lot of role-playing in it because, of course, it's from Don't Nod. Players step into the roles of Antia and Red Mac, a duo of ghost hunters. Their journey is going to lead them across this locale known as New Eden, and in a twist of fate, Antia is a ghost, transforming into that during their mission. The game has it blending in with the traditional weapons as well as newfound spectral powers, offering a unique approach to confronting different adversaries as you play, and hopefully bouncing off the differences between the physical and the spiritual. Okay, that drive dissertation of what the game is now over. What it really is a game about a relationship between these two people separated by, well, death. A third-person action role-playing game where you fight off a curse in the 1690s just sounds sweet to me. 1690s when the witch trials happened, when a bunch of girls ate moldy bread, got high as fuck, and decided everyone else was channeling Earth Dragon magic and got the city leaders to kill them. In Banishers, you jump in there, you get to mix and match the powers, make choices, use Red's instincts as well as Antia's powers. Since it's like the game Vampire in many ways, you're going to get to make those decisions and then fret over them for hours, as one wrong thing you did is most likely going to come back to haunt you, even if it's not in the game mechanics, but in the narrative. These guys know how to handle it. You also have a ton of combat, a mix of titles like Elix and Witcher 3 from the looks of it. Red's got his swords and clubs and guns, and of course, Antia's got those sweet, sweet-ass ghost powers. Don't Nod made one of my favorite games ever in Vampire. You know how, when every single choice hurts, That's how Banisher's dual protagonists seem like they're going to be. A unique situation in life and a difference in the narrative and delivery. To me, that's exciting. Each time that you deal with a major story event in the game, the characters can also choose to spiritually blame or forgive the people who've done wrong in the world. And that impacts both the future of the world itself as well as how your relationship continues. Combat's also vastly improved since the game was originally shown, and the delay into 2024 seems to have really helped it. Let's just hope that choosing to release on February 13th, which is the luckiest day of the month, is a good one for them. Next up, Nightinggale, February 22nd. So what is Nightinggale? It's pretty much a PvE survival adventure game, up to 6 players based in an alternative world in the 1800s where the Fae are real, gave humans their knowledge of the spiritual world, and, of course, what happened? Everything went horribly wrong. You're a realm walker, one of the characters that's chosen to venture alone or unite with players to explore the mystical other worlds through these shimmering portals, all kinds with unique challenges and malevolent forces you have to take down. But make no mistake, this game is a survival title, which means it hinges on your ability to craft, build, and fight, regardless whether you like those or not. You harness your resources scattered throughout the realm, use tools to craft all different kinds of materials, and then you build. You discover ancient schematics and assemble ancient weaponry and equipment. One part that the developers have demonstrated multiple times is the large amount of building that you can do in this, even forming communities, creating safe havens in the wild and untamed lands to stop and stave off being attacked by others. There is no doubt we have a plethora of survival games, including Enshrouded, Valheim, and others. There's going to be a lot of deep comparisons that you can make, but I'm hoping that Nightingale's unique world, as well as the crafting and schematics, lets it sort of rise above. In Pacific Drive, you explore a world where supernatural portals are opening all around you, and you're shaggin' waggin', lead-footing it through creepy lands, exploring scavenging, and slowly wheeling out a story of scientific experimentation, possibly gone wrong. Driving around, exploring those hazards, leaping out of your car, searching for supplies, inside buildings or in the forest, and then hot-footing it back. The gameplay loop is about taking trips, like side drives when you were a kid and you just got your license, gathering items, and returning. The developers have stated that they wanted to channel the feeling of that first drive, the nostalgic hint of freedom that you get, as well as a bit of worry, and that's exactly what I played in the preview. However, Pacific Drive also feels like something special, something very different. It feels in a way like the car's a pet, and the way you upgrade, the way it saves you at the very last moment, and the sim elements of making sure to gas it up and keep it running well. Even the HUD and the panels inside of the car, you can see while you're looking through the window to understand what you need to upgrade without leaping in. There's this synergy between the player and the car, and it taking care of you and you taking care of it that feels a lot like pets in games. This thing straight up needs a pet the car button. Not only that, but the customization is incredible. All sorts of upgrade to the armor, the vinyls, the paints. So far, what I played of this, it was fantastic, and even in the preview had already nailed all of the things that I wanted. It just depends on how long the gameplay loop is rewarding. That comes out, again, February 22nd. Now, while there are a lot of games, there are a couple I wanted to hit, and one's near and dear to my heart, and that's Star Wars Dark Forces Remaster on February 28th, and by Night Dive Studios. The true remasters are returning with a vengeance in 2024, and this is one that I really can't wait for. It's easy to forget a time not so distant in the past when Night Dive Studios looked like it was going to just take one for the team and go down. But they've done a great job on the titles that they have released, and next up is Dark Forces, a true classic in a lot of gamers' eyes. It's typical Star Wars, Empire bad, Rebels good. The Empire have figured out one more way to make another Doomsday weapon somehow. You'd think that with this many attempts, they'd have truly been successful, but whatever. The Rebel Alliance decides to send in covert ops, and guess what? That's you. The work going into Dark Forces Remaster isn't necessarily more than a normal remaster, but it does hint at them trying to make sure that it feels like gamers are rewarded for going back to it. First, Night Dive is fully porting this through their KEX engine, allowing the game to run on modern gaming devices up to 4K resolution and also 120 FPS. New and returning players are going to be able to enjoy this with upgraded gameplay, high-resolution textures, enhanced lighting, rendering, and support for gamepads. The original 1995 title of this raised the bar for FPS games, offering players this significant degree of movement and interactivity that a lot of titles at the time didn't have, and a large selection of items, power-ups, and different environments for you to explore and engage in. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and Dark Forces I haven't returned to since maybe a couple years after it originally released, as well as when when it first did. So to me, this is going to be pretty much a new one jumping in there as well. What games in February are you interested in? I'm sure I've missed a ton. These are just the ones that I can't wait to jump into. Check out the Patreon, check out the podcast Wednesdays and Fridays. Become a YouTube member. You also get access to the Discord. Peace out and gang gang.